It is the third day of the fifth month of this particular year. Glad that you tuned in to KUTV Primetime News tonight. Our reporters have been up and about, interacting with different issues and different stories, and they have brought you immense stories, and here are the top ones. President Ruto orders all schools to remain closed as the nation continues to experience heavy rains and floods. Clergy calls on churches to offer support to those affected by the floods. Desperate Kenyans scramble for every free medical camp available as doctors' strike continues to bite. And Forum for African Women Educationists and Siaya County join hands to reintegrate teen mothers back to school. This is KUTV Primetime News with Mutegi K. Martin. Zimwangi joins us in the sign language interpretation for tonight. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, President William Ruto has now ordered schools in the country to remain closed as the nation continues to experience heavy rains and floods in various parts of the country. Our reporter Yvonne Kemoma has more details.
High schools and primary schools will remain closed for an indefinite period following President William Ruto's directive. In his official address to the nation earlier this evening, the president issued several directives to various ministries across the country, aiming to mitigate the level of devastation caused by the ongoing heavy rains and floods.
Wizara ya Elimu tayari kuna maagizo na maelezo ya vile mambo ya shule itaendelea kutoka hapa. Tumesema mashule yale yalikuwa yanatarajiwa kufunguliwa Jumatatu, sasa hayatafunguliwa mpaka pale mwongozo mpya utakapotolewa.
The directive comes at a time when schools were supposed to reopen officially next week after being postponed for a week. In an official statement by the Ministry of Education, the initial directive was issued with short notice, with some parents expressing dissatisfaction with the delayed decision.
Na wizara inaelewa vile itashirikiana na walimu na viongozi wa mashule kuendeleza sekta hiyo ya elimu kama janga hili litaendelea baada ya wiki ijayo. Serikali itatoa mwongozo zaidi baada ya wiki ijayo.
Currently, various parts of the country have experienced floods, with concern that many schools may have also been affected as more rains are forecasted nationwide. In the coastal areas of Kenya, there's a likelihood of the Kenyan dire rains if yesterday's predictions prove to be accurate. Yvonne Kemoma, KUTV.
And as efforts continue across various parts of the country to aid those affected by the recent floods, the clergy has emphasized the need for caution when crossing flooded areas. While addressing the media, the presiding bishop of the Pentecostal Evangelistic Fellowship of Africa, also known as PEFA Church Kenya, Bishop John Okinda, also urged the government to take steps to manage the floodwaters to prevent further tragedies, while calling on churches to offer support to those affected by the floods.
The president of the Pentecostal Evangelistic Fellowship of Africa Church, Bishop Okinda, has expressed concern over the devastating impact of the floods in Migori County and the country at large. Speaking from his home village in Ragana Suna West Sub-County in Migori County, Bishop Okinda called on churches to offer support to those affected by the floods, asking Kenyans to stand together to support victims and their families.
Many lives have been lost because of the floods. It is saddening that the commodity that we always look for has become a disaster, that is water. It's our prayer that the government will be able to work very hard and smartly so that water does not become a weapon of destruction, but a blessing to people.
The PEFA head further encouraged both the government and the public to take preventive measures and exercise caution when crossing flooded areas.
Also, we want to pray that the churches and everybody else be ready to send help where people now have been displaced because of the water disaster. And we pray for calm and peace, even as we settle where we've been settled temporarily.
We are praying, and we know this was a catastrophe which nobody planned for and we couldn't help it. But now that has happened, I'm calling upon each and every person of us to come together so that we may support and stand with our brothers and sisters who have lost their lives and their property.
The raging floods have left various homes, beaches, and schools in Nyatike sub-county in Migori partially submerged in the water, forcing residents to evacuate their homes and seek shelter in safer areas within their communities. This comes at a time when the Kenya Meteorological Department continues to remind Kenyans to stay vigilant and heed weather alerts for their areas in response to warnings of heavy rainfall, strong winds, and large waves. Israel Omai, KUTV.
First Lady Rachel Ruto has distributed food and household items to 203 families affected by floods in the Thika West area, Kiambu County. Speaking at the St. John's Teachers Training College in Kilimambogo, the First Lady assured the flood victims that the government will be assisting them in that particular regard.
Atapata jiko, atapata
Hili shida ambalo tumepata sio tu hapa Thika peke yake. Nafikiria mumeweza kuona katika runinga kwamba ni shida ambayo tumeweza kupata katika sehemu nyingi ya nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na kama vile Mheshimiwa Alisa amesema ni kwamba tunasema asante kwa mvua, maana mvua ndio inatuwezesha kuweza kukuza vyakula.
Now, as doctors' strike continues to bite, desperate Kenyans in need of medical services are now scrambling for every free medical camp available. In Mutegi in Juja, Kiambu County, over 700 residents took advantage of a free eye screening medical camp organized by Zitech University in collaboration with other stakeholders in the health sector. Though the free medical camp was merely an eye screening affair, the residents ailing from other diseases thronged the facility, eager to receive medical attention.
As the effect of the ongoing doctor strike continue to cripple the health sector in the country, desperate Kenyans in dire need of medical attention are now jostling for space in every medical camp for treatment, regardless of what services they are offering. At Mutegi in Juja, Kiambu County, this is the situation. A grim picture of Soro's state of healthcare.
Tumeona leo watu ni wengi hapa na wengine ukiwaangalia ugonjwa sio macho tu, wako na shida nyingi sana. Tulipoanza asubuhi watu walikuwa wachache. Tulikuwa tunafikiri tunafikisha watu 300. Sasa hivi wamefika karibu 500. Wamesikia kuna madaktari pandei na tunaona hii ni juu ya ile mgomo. Wakienda kwa hospitali hawapati daktari. So tungetaka kuhimisha serikali na daktari wakae chini kwa meza waongee, wasikizane. Juu hii mgomo ikiendelea hivi mwananchi wa kawaida ndio anaumia sana.
This was supposed to be a free eye screening medical camp, but when you are in a desperate need of medical attention, who cares? Hundreds ailing from other diseases thronged the camp, eager to receive medical services. Professor Alice Njuguna is Deputy Vice Chancellor at Zitech University. As organizers, they had targeted at least 300 people. She attributes the rising number of poverty line and the high cost of treatment in private hospitals that have left the struggling Kenyans with no choice but to scramble for a few available free medical treatment camps due to ongoing doctor strike.
Majority wako na challenges because saizi venye madaktari wamegoma. Kwa sahi ni watu wamepitia magumu because pesa ni ngumu kupata, plus wengine wanakufa pia wakiwa home because hawapati those services needed in the hospital. Wengine wanatoka kwa hospital maybe walikuwa under medication, wamekuwa wamelazwa kwa wards, but sasa kwa sahi wengine wamerudi nyumbani. Magonjwa yamezidi kuinuka. For instance, ukipata like kama ni TB, wengine hawezi pata kutibiwa because hakuna pesa.
Tulikuwa tunafikiri tutapata watu kama 300, lakini wamekuja wengi sana. So tunaona tutakuwa na zingine siku ya pili, ya tatu, kulingana na vile tutaona jamii kiwa nyingi.
As Kenya Union of Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentist Union and the government continue to hold their hard line, desperate Kenyans who can't afford treatment in private hospitals continue to bear the brunt. What remains to be seen is who will blink first. For now, Kenyans will have to bear the pain for a little bit longer. God knows when. Auma Evans for KUTV, Nairobi.
The Forum for African Women Educationists, FAWE, Kenya, and the Siaya County government have embarked on a program aimed at encouraging teenage mothers to go back to school. The program will focus on strategies, to reduce teenage pregnancies and child marriages in the county. Siaya County Director of Youth Affairs, Gender and Social Services, Mrs. Maida Nyawade, hailed the program, saying that it will help the county reduce the number of rising child pregnancies in the county. That, according to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey 2022, stands at 21%.
We find that there's a gap whereby those young girls who drop out of school because of teenage pregnancy are not given a second chance to go back to school and to achieve their goals. So we are here to, as multi-stakeholders in Siaya County, to see how we can bring our synergies together, discuss how we can come up with strategies that will enable teenage mothers who dropped out of school to be re-entered back to school, and also how they returned and transit to the next level of the academic life.
So this is a conversation that is very dear to us as county government, because we do realize that if we do not retain these girls in schools, then we are perpetuating the cycle of poverty amongst our children.
It is 15 minutes past the top of the hour, and at this time I'd like to remind you that today is World Press Freedom Day, and we're here to remind you as journalists that we have the freedom to be able to tell the people, the masses, what is happening, of course, with the ethics and the laws that govern this particular practice. We'll take a short break right here on KUTV Primetime News. We will be back with an interesting conversation about infertility. You don't want to miss this particular interesting conversation with a lady who has done exploits in this nation and beyond, a lady who has undergone stigma herself that comes with infertility, but has risen over that particular challenge to come up with an NGO that really caters and has helped a lot of people deal with infertility issues. That and much more in the next part of our bulletin. Don't go anywhere.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pepo pasi vuguvugu, pepo pani idea.
Sazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, hiyo inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
They are powerful and influential. They make decisions in politics, education, finance, agriculture, health, sports, and all aspects of human life. But the impact of their decisions falls on you, the common citizen. KUTV Primetime News Thursday. We ask bold questions and pursue answers to the core to bring you closer to the story. We couldn't have it any other way. Join me, Auma Evans, as I raise matters of social concern to raise your voice from the background to the foreground. Every Thursday and Saturday at 9 p.m. only on KUTV.
Hello everybody! Welcome to Engine, where we ask the coolest questions in science! Let's go! Is yogurt really just rotten milk? Why do humans need sharks to survive? How did a 12-year-old boy from Africa invent modern vanilla farming? How do you deliver medicine to a chimpanzee? Can poop be useful? How can you save the planet by reducing air pollution? To help us answer these questions, we are inviting some wonderful guests from the world of science. They will enlighten you, make you hungry for knowledge, oxygenate your brain, and make your ideas flow. This is Engine Season 3. Let's go!
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Mutegi K. Martin. All right, it's 20 minutes past the top of the hour. Glad you're still here, being in what's happening in the country and beyond, courtesy of our newsroom. And we shall be getting some international stories just before we get into the health conversation that I promised much earlier about infertility. And now we move to the US, where presumed Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump says if elected, he would restore a travel ban on some majority US countries on the first day of his new administration. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns now reports.
When Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, he pledged to change U.S. immigration to keep out terrorists from Islamic countries.
And we will keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country 100%. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Once in office, Trump banned travel to the U.S. from 7 majority Muslim countries. sparking protests and legal challenges, including from the American Civil Liberties Union.
If there are real threats, then those threats should be investigated on an individual basis. But we shouldn't assume that any group or religion is more dangerous than another group.
The travel ban was argued all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where a conservative majority upheld it, in a move celebrated by Trump online and at the White House.
We have to be tough, and we have to be safe, and we have to be secure.
Joe Biden campaigned against the Trump travel ban in 2020.
You know, you don't have to accept the president who promulgates hatred and exclusion toward Muslims and trumped up bans on travel bans on Muslims. So help me God.
And ended that ban when he became president. Now, 4 years later, Trump told supporters in Wisconsin this week that events in the Middle East convince him that it's time for another travel ban.
We do not need a jihad in the United States of America. We do not need our once great cities to become hotbeds of terrorism. And on day one of the Trump presidency, I'm restoring the travel ban, suspending refugee admissions, and keeping terrorists the hell out of our country, like I had it before.
In this campaign, Biden has championed immigrant contributions to the United States, telling a group of campaign donors this week that other countries have suffered because they're xenophobic. Immigrants are what makes us strong, Biden said, because, quote, we have an influx of workers who want to be here and want to contribute. An April Harvard Caps Harris poll shows immigration tied with inflation as the top issues for U.S. voters. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
Now we move from the U.S. to Russia, where Moscow has cracked down on Russian media outlets that offer independent reporting on the war in Ukraine, prompting hundreds of journalists to flee. While in exile, these media workers have found ways to keep the news flowing into the heavily censored country. For VOA News, Lisa Bryant has a story from Paris.
Arnold Kachaturov got into journalism to provide his fellow Russians with the kind of news not seen on state-controlled channels. Then Russia invaded Ukraine and imposed new media restrictions that upended the Moscow-based reporter's career.
Every independent media in Russia was thinking how to continue, and because they were all blocked in a few days after the war started.
Kachaturov is one of more than 1,500 Russian journalists estimated to be living in exile. This year, his news outlet, Novaya Gazeta Europe, opened a third European office in Paris. It's a two-person operation, sharing a co-working space like this one, which provides offices and other resources to the exile community. Kachaturov covers European and Russian news for audiences inside and outside his home country, including the latest on the war in Ukraine. Inside Russia, the topic is heavily censored. Social media is crucial to his work.
It's indeed very hard to get information from Russia, not only because we're not physically there, but also because we are an undesirable organization, which means for the people who talk with us, it's a real danger.
Novaya Gazeta Europe is one of dozens of media outlets that Moscow has labeled undesirable, a designation that puts its staff and sources in and out of Russia at risk of legal action and imprisonment.
It always has been difficult for journalists, independent journalists in Russia, but the situation is getting worse since the war in Ukraine, with the whole military censorship. You can be put in prison for anything.
To help exiled Russian independent journalists broadcast their reports, Reporters Without Borders launched Svoboda, a satellite package that includes Novaya Gazeta Europe and other news channels. Supported by the European Union, it aims to reach several million households in Russia.
The television can be a powerful tool for Russian people to change their mind about the war, at least to have the facts, real facts, instead of propaganda.
Russian journalist and analyst Galia Ackerman says it was even more difficult accessing independent news in Soviet times. Living in Moscow decades ago, she and her husband listened to foreign radio late at night when there was less jamming.
My parents never came to listen with us. They didn't care, because for them it was simpler not to know.
That's one reason she's skeptical that the new satellite operation will make much of a difference inside Russia.
Most of the population, I think, I'm afraid, do not want to know, because it's unbearable to know. It's unbearable. Russia is committing a big continuous crime. Crime against Ukraine, but also crime against its own people.
Kachaturov is optimistic that democracy and free expression will one day come to Russia. But first, he says, he and other exiled journalists need to prepare for a long struggle. Lisa Bryant, VOA News, Paris.
28 minutes past the top of the hour, and this second break reminds me of the famous story of a donkey in the well. The donkey that fell in the well, and the owner thought the best way of dealing with that situation was to throw mud into the well. And every time they threw mud in the well, the donkey would shake itself and step on the mud and go higher until finally the donkey was able to go out of the well. That story reminds me and points to what our guest tonight has done with her life in terms of fertility matters, and has risen up to help many more people in that particular regard. We take a short break. We'll be coming back with an interesting conversation. You don't want to miss this.
Access to knowledge. Solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights and repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only on Law Matters.
Where we ask the coolest questions in science. Let's go! Is yogurt really just rotten milk? Why do humans need sharks to survive? How did a 12-year-old boy from Africa invent modern vanilla farming? How do you deliver medicine to a chimpanzee? Can poop be useful? How can you save the planet by reducing air pollution? To help us answer these questions, we are inviting some wonderful guests from the world of science. They will enlighten you, make you hungry for knowledge, oxygenate your brain, and make your ideas flow. This is Engine Season 3. Let's go!
Get ready to kickstart your day with the most exciting morning show around. Tune in to our dynamic and entertaining program where we keep you informed, engaged, and entertained from the moment you wake up.
From breaking news and current events to music, fun, and out of the ordinary stories, we've got you covered with a mix of interviews, games, and special segments. You never know what's in store.
Join us every Monday morning
and Tuesday morning
for a fun and fascinating way to start your day.
Don't miss out on the action.
Tune in now and experience the excitement for yourself.
Only on KUTV Rise Today from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Start your day
with us.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Mutegi K. Martin. All right, it is 34 minutes past 9 p.m. You can say 26 minutes to 10. And in this time that we have before the end of the bulletin, we are joined on set by an amazing lady, Cecilia Karanja, who is the founder of Fertility Kenya, which is a foundation and an NGO that is doing great works in making sure that people combat infertility and the effects thereof. So get ready for this conversation. Once again, grab your pen, grab your paper. You need to write. We need to remember what she says tonight because it is important information in our society today. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, so begin by looking at that camera and telling us about yourself. Kidogo tu.
Okay. My name is Cecilia Karanja, founder of Fertility Kenya. Fertility Kenya deals with persons struggling with infertility. It was started in 2014, registered as an NGO in 2015, and this far we've come. Yes.
All right. And when I hear fertility or infertility issues, I look at the society. All of us come from a society, and there are expectations of people, especially people who are of age and have come together in marriage, and people begin to wait for children. And in our society, specifically in Kenya, we see a lot of pressure coming from different circles, majorly around the family setting. And I want us to begin there. The societal and cultural things that we have around our societies, how are they going? You know, how are they affecting the people who have majorly infertility issues?
Thank you very much for that question, because it's a very important one, because when you're struggling with infertility, people tend not to understand what is happening, because we are in an African setup. African setup is where when you get married, people expect you to get children automatically. So it has been there, and from our forefathers to date, we have not changed that culture. So you find that when people get married, the next thing, in fact, on your wedding day, you're told that next time you're coming, we want to find you with the children. Now we are coming to eat njahe, we are coming to celebrate with your babies. So they don't want to meet you in between when you don't have a child. So what happens is when you go home, you go with that pressure of wanting to get that child. So when you go with that pressure of now the society, they want to come to you to hold that baby, then the next thing is that when the baby doesn't come, the pressure starts from that family, from your husband, because both of you are not getting the kids, because of course you want to have those kids. Then the next pressure is that your parents want you to have the kids. So the immediate family members, your parents, your sisters, your friends, they come in when it takes like an year. When you're not getting a child, they get in, and now they want to get concerned why you're not getting that child. And that is where now you find that people start getting into pressure. Everyone the friends, you yourself who is struggling with infertility, the society, the stigma starts popping in because now people start thinking that people got married and they have a problem. And especially for women, they bear that brand of infertility because you are the one who carry that baby. So you find that when you don't get that baby, they feel like you are the one who has a problem. And right now, as we are talking, we are almost like 50-50. The infertility is caused by both women and men. So they fail to look at the men because they are not the ones carrying the baby. So we carry the brand because we are the one who are carrying the baby, and the society look at us as outcasts, and they feel that we don't need to be in that marriage. And that is when now your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, everyone gets in to put pressure on the husband, and they want you out of that marriage. Yes.
Or for you to make an addition as a man into the family.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
name of
to
a
get
second
an addition.
wife.
Yes.
And as I did my research on your foundation, which is an amazing job, I must say, when I look at the statistics, 6,000 women have been treated in terms of infertility issues. 5,000 men have been treated. And as you almost said, we are almost at par.
50-50.
We're almost at par. Yet we live in a very, I would say, backward society in terms of our mindset, in terms of our infertility issues, where people think it's the woman who has the issue every time a couple does not get to have a child. Do you feel we are making strides as a continent, as a country, as a people? And what areas of awareness do you think we can actually target on to make sure that this, whatever you're saying, is heard to the very corners of our nation and beyond?
Okay. I think as a country, we are really making a lot of strides because when we started in 2014, there was no one talking about infertility. And when I started talking about my story, because I also struggled with infertility, I stayed for 10 years without conceiving, and I also lost 2 marriages because I could not get pregnant. That time, it was like when you talk about it, everybody were shocked. And they didn't want me to talk about my story, and everyone was like, how do you even talk about that? But with time, as I continued talking about my story, I remember the first time I went on air, my phone crashed because everybody wanted to talk to me and tell me what they were going through because they did not have anyone to talk to. Let me tell you, in infertility, the only person you talk to is the doctor. And the doctor doesn't have a lot of time with you. When you go there, you find a queue. So when you get in there, they tell you, hey, you've come, what is the problem? They write down, they do the prescription, or they write for you the test you need to do, and then you go. But the emotional part of it, there was no one to nurture it. And that is what Fertility Kenya brought. People to just come and cry and pour out what they are going through. And we have seen this we have seen Fertility Kenya creating a lot of awareness and people just coming out freely to talk about what they are going through. And we can say that I don't think right now there is anyone who is not able to talk about what they are going through, unless the people that we have not reached to, because there are so many. But the people that we manage to talk to and the people we've managed to psychologically talk to and maybe counsel when they're going through infertility, they have been able to even get solution, get this baby, and they become now the ambassadors. They become the ambassadors to go and talk about what they need to do to get these babies. So basically for me, I would say we have made a lot of strides because we have treatment of infertility in Kenya, because before this, there was no IVF. There was no IVF centers in Kenya, and right now we are talking over 10 IVF centers in Kenya, and very high quality and very successful ones. So I will say that treatment, you don't need to go outside the country to get treated for infertility. And before that time I was struggling with infertility. The only place I knew I could go for IVF center was in South Africa. But right now we are seeing so many centers coming in and so many people getting treated and getting this baby. You find they get 1, 2 or 3, and even we've gotten a couple that got 4. So basically for me, yes, I would say we've made a lot of milestone in terms of infertility, also in terms of insurances trying to cover infertility. We are not yet there, but at least they have started. So I would say yes, we've done a lot of milestone.
All right. Thank you for that. You've mentioned a lot of things and you saved a lot of time for me, because my director tells me we have very little time on our hands. You've mentioned things like IVF, which are quite expensive.
Yes.
So that leads me to my next area of concern, which is the financial implications that come with some of these procedures, and what the common mwananchi is able to achieve looking at their financial situation. How does the financial implications look like in the first place? And what are the interventions that you have brought on board, seeing that some of these processes can be quite costly?
Okay, I would say fertility treatment is very expensive, and this is a challenge when it comes to treatment of infertility, and that is why you find so many people don't want to come out to talk about their story, or they don't want to come out and get the solution because they already know the financial implication. As you all know, IVF procedure is very expensive. It ranges between 500 to 1 million shillings. So even if the treatment is there, so many people cannot afford to undergo the treatment. But I would say as an organization, we've been out there trying to create awareness, talking to the HRs of companies. We've been talking to companies to try and cover people who are going through infertility, because that is the only way we can tap into the treatment of infertility, because as you all know that insurances don't like covering fertility. So what we have done is negotiate with the HR to negotiate on behalf of their employee to be covered on IVF through the packages, because at that particular time when they're negotiating, they have the upper hand. So they can tell them, if you want me to give you the contract, you have to put the IVF procedure, because I have my people who are struggling with infertility. If they refuse, they go to another insurance company. And we are seeing out of that, there are so many other companies which are coming up to cover their staff for IVF treatment. We thank God that as a government, we have tried, because NHIF is covering for civil servants. So all civil servants are covered for IVF procedure, though they have a lot of restrictions on that, but we are praying to God that they're going to remove the restrictions. We have Ewen Minet covering for teachers. We have CIC insurance covering for police, and we have seen Kenya Power covering for their staff. And we can say we are improving in terms of coverage of insurance, but we are praying and asking the government, the current government, we are just covering people who are employed. Look at the people who cannot afford. They are the people who are in the rural areas, the people who are in the ghetto, the people who want to get, and they are the ones who get babies for us. So basically, we need to cover everyone in the new insurance cover. We have been praying and talking and demonstrating in the street, asking the government to actually cover these people, because they cannot afford. So if they can do something, of which we have been negotiating, if they can do something, at least they cover for those people who are paying for the insurance, then we thank God that at least the stigma will just disappear, because if I realize that I'm not getting kids, I will just go and do the IVF procedure, and it will be easy for us to just end the stigma, and also the mental health, where people get affected mentally because of lack of children. Yes.
Thank you so much, especially with the pushing the government, especially now that it's called the hustler government, and the people termed as the hustlers need also to get into this particular benefit. And of course, just before I cut you short, you mentioned mental health, and that's where I want us to go even as we wind up this conversation. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of discrimination that comes with this particular condition. And that, of course, affects the mental wellness of the affected persons.
Yeah.
What can we do as a society?
Okay.
Maybe you can paint a picture a bit. I think I cut you short as you were doing that. Paint the picture more on how that looks like and what we can do as a society to make sure that these people don't go into depression and other forms of mental illnesses.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll start by saying that when I was struggling with infertility, I went through depression, and the depression came about because of the people, the way they were handling me, because everyone wanted me pregnant. Everywhere I went, they were just talking about me. They thought the reason why I was not getting children is because I had aborted before. They thought because I was a bad girl. There are people who come to me because they have been they want to be suicidal. They are suicidal. They want to. The reason why they are suicidal is because they have been put in a situation by their mother-in-law. They are being told that they came to that family just to eat and just fill in the toilet. They are telling the mother-in-law are telling their son to remarry. They are being told that they were bad people. You married somebody who will never get children. And they come to me and they are telling me now, Cecilia, I don't know what I will do. There's somebody here who did an IVF procedure and it failed, and they had taken a loan and they did not succeed. They are suicidal. They send me a message today. They are suicidal because they don't even know where they're gonna get this money. So basically, we need to embrace these people who are struggling with infertility. Let people realize that this is a condition like any other condition, and it is a treatable condition. If you talk badly about me today, and you bring that enmity, and tomorrow you see me pregnant, because God can bless me and maybe insurance cover me and I get pregnant, what will happen? You will not be able to face me because you talked bad about me. So basically what we are trying to say is that embrace that woman, talk to them nicely. Even if me as a person, I always put myself in the same shoes as the mother-in-law. I also want my son to have a child, but I can ask the same question in a friendly manner, or maybe I can call them, we look for a solution. I've seen father-in-laws, I've seen mother-in-laws bring their daughter-in-law to me to just get a solution of infertility. That is the way to go about it. If you see somebody is not getting pregnant, just try and give them my number. Just try and direct them to the doctor. Just try and find a solution for them. That is the only way you can make them comfortable and fit in the society. Because who tells you? Some of them are born without even the uterus. So what we are talking about is that it could be you. Today you're talking about this couple. Tomorrow it could be you with your son. It could be you with your auntie. It could be you with your uncle. You never know. So how you treat this person is the same way. Is it the same way you'd want to be treated then? So I want us to be in a situation where we embrace this couple or we embrace these children. And as a mother-in-law, if you think your son, maybe your daughter-in-law is the problem, maybe it is your son. So look at both sides. And most of the time when the couples are struggling with infertility, they tend to hide who who is affected by infertility. So you find that you'll be talking about the lady is the one who has a problem, but actually it is your son. So you find that you'll be talking about the son is the one who has a problem, but it is the woman. So put yourself in the situation whereby you say if it was my son or it was my daughter, so that you can find a solution for all of you.
Okay. We have 1 minute to go. We have to talk about the most important thing that I promised we would talk about, and that's reproductive health education. They say prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
Do you think reproductive health education is important in terms of combating and, having early detection and treatment for this particular condition?
Thank you very much. I believe reproductive health is the most important part in our life as women and men, because if we can be able to hijack reproductive health at our earlier age, we'll be able to cure infertility in the future. The reason why I'm saying this is because infertility is caused of blockage of tube, and blockage of tube is through infection. Maybe you had early sex, or maybe you've had an untreated condition that you've had. So if we could be able to go to these schools, we are starting a program where we go to the schools and we talk to them about reproductive health. Reproductive health is about now how you take care of yourself in reproductive health, your family planning, how do you take your family planning, because we've seen a lot of students and a lot of young girls and a lot of young boys, they are using blue pill for boys. For girls, they are using the P2, which might affect, because the P2 freezes the eggs. So you find that there are people who are getting early pregnancies, there are people who are doing abortions. So what we are trying to do is we want to bring the guidance to them. They talk to them so that they understand. What we are lacking when our girls are growing is that nurturing of reproductive health, because parents are failing us and the teachers are also failing us. They are not able to talk to these students about their reproductive health. So we want to get into that gap and teach them about what they need to do when it comes to their reproductive health. And I believe if we're able to do that, if it is about family planning, they don't use the P2, but maybe they get the right medication for the right family planning. They either get the injection, they get whatever it is for them to be safer, depending on their body and depending on their hormones. So that is what we are seeing will end will reduce infertility in the future.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming through tonight and educating us. 20 or maybe 10 seconds. Give us your number there for someone who will not be able to get to your site.
Okay, thank you very much. Our social media is Fertility Kenya, F capital, Kenya capital, and also that is our Facebook page. We also have our website, www.fertilitykenya. Also, we are situated at Embassy House, 3rd floor, room 319, and my number, or our number is 0722-774371. My number is 0722-774371.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you so much for giving us the wonderful insights. Thank you for the passion that you have for the community and for the longevity of the community, which depends on our fertility. Thank you so much for coming through.
Asante.
All right, there you have it. Cecilia Karanja, founder Fertility Kenya, very passionate about fertility. And reach out if you have a problem and embrace those who have a problem in our society. We take a very short break. We'll be coming back with sports news after this bumper. All right, welcome back. You're now watching Sports News, and Football Kenya Federation, FKF, has announced a suspension of 5 individuals over match fixing allegations that occurred last month. Jacqueline Barongo, Mesha Komondi, and Stephen Adea are the 3 referees who are currently under investigation by the Federation's Integrity Department for match-fixing allegations. FC Talanta keeper Kelvin Alango and Kibra United team manager Abdul Karim Amere also remain suspended from all football-related activities until their names are cleared. And internationally, Chelsea rekindled their quest of finishing top in the English Premier League with a convincing 2-0 to deal a huge blow to Tottenham's Champions League hopes at Stamford Bridge. Goals from Trevor Chalobah and Nicholas Jackson and the Blues. The match needed 3 points in their bid for Europe to dent Spurs' top 4 hopes. The Blues' next assignment is against West Ham United in yet another London derby, with the top 6 finish very possible within their grasp. All right, we come to the end of the conversation tonight. Thank you for joining us for an hour of information on what's happening in the country and beyond our borders. Our reporters and our head of news and everyone who has been involved in making this bulletin possible, thank you in particular for staying tuned for this 1 hour of the information that regards your surrounding. We've come to the end of the conversation for now. But the weekend is coming, so we'll be having Vizizi Weekendi tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. and Weekend Prime at 9 p.m. courtesy of our very own newsroom, who work very hard to make sure that you're informed on matters concerning you. And as we get to end the bulletin, I want to remind you that it's the 3rd of May, which means it's the World Press Freedom Day. So continue with your well wishes to us who are in the press and the news media, that we might be able to deliver credible news to you. And of course, we shall be able to do exactly that in our capacities, even as we continue to see the world evolve and becoming a better place and championing for the world to become a better place. Daisy Mwangi is our sign language interpreter tonight. My name is Mutegi K. Martin. Good night.